Today's reset class is called Chaturanga. So depending on who you ask, Chaturanga is both this action of going from high plank down to low plank, or it's just holding this low plank position. Now, regardless of whether we're talking about lowering from plank to low plank or holding that low plank position, we're going to learn today and really focus on is keeping the head of the arm bone centered in the shoulder socket. So right where your humerus bone meets the glenoid process of the shoulder forms the glenohumeral joint. So at that humeral head, we want to keep it nice and centered so that we can protect all the soft tissues around the shoulder, honor those structures, and activate and strengthen the muscles around this shoulder joint, ultimately creating more balance around the neck and this whole upper core region. Like we usually do, we're going to get started on our back bow and start to feel some of these movements of the shoulders while we activate our glutes. If you have a block, it can be helpful, but you don't need one by any means. We'll all come down onto our backs, walk the feet in, shoulders are on the ground. You have the back of the neck on the ground, your skull, the neck will be a little bit lifted with your natural curve. Take the block in between your legs. Now, everyone's pelvis is a different size, so if it's the narrow width, the medium width, you find something that's comfortable, but squeeze into that block. And if you don't have the block, you're just pressing the feet into the floor. We're all gonna press into the floor and lift the hips. Just a few inches here. That's all you need. You're getting a little bit of hip extension. So we're taking those hips from that typically flexed position and we're extending them. We're not going into the low back, so it's not about how high up we lift here. We're staying low, rooting the tailbone, and making sure our glutes are working. Even these lower fibers, right where your legs plug into those hip sockets, you want to feel the glutes working there. Then take your palms up towards the ceiling and just pull your fingers back towards your face. It's like you're holding a tray in each hand. We're going to reach our palms up towards the ceiling, allowing our shoulder blades to spread away from the center of the spine. And you'll feel the head of the arm bone, that humeral head, lift off the floor. And then retracting the shoulders back towards the spine, you're gonna plug those arm bones into the shoulder socket and bring it down towards the floor. We'll come all the way into retraction since we do have the floor in the way here. Keep pressing the feet, keep squeezing your glutes, create that space in the low back, pull the belly into that back line, and we're gonna reach the palms up, feel a little protraction. You're lifting the head of the arm bones away from the floor, and then retract them and pull them back down. We'll do that 3 more times. Reaching the palms up, you'll feel that lift of the arms and we're retracting them, bringing them back down towards the floor. So the protraction is what reaches the palms up towards the ceiling, gets that spread. The retraction brings those shoulder blades back together. One more time with that protraction. This time we'll all bring those shoulder blades back down onto the back ribs. Feel those head of the arm bones plugging into the shoulder sockets. And take your right wrist across your left 4 fingers. Give it a nice stretch here. We're gonna be spending a decent amount of time on our hands since we'll be talking about a movement in that low plank or lowering down to that low plank for that chaturanga. And we'll be working with those wrists a decent amount. You can even take the left arm a little bit more up and overhead if that feels good for you. Again, keep the expansion in the hips by rooting your tailbone towards your heels and getting that lift, but we're not going into the low back. Press into the feet, spread the toes. Switch hands so you can pull back on those right fingers. If you rest like that, even the thumb moves away from the center of the palm and you're still plugging that right shoulder blade into that shoulder socket, starting to begin to set these principles into the body and into the mind and create that connection. We're setting new roads down. You can reach the right arm a little more overhead, take a few more breaths, let it go into the shoulder. Slowly lower yourself down from your upper, middle, and your lower back. We'll release the right wrist. Let's circle our wrists a couple of times. Reverse the circles. Just let them sing and get some fluid in there. So if you had a block between your legs for bridge, take it out. It's just something to help you engage around the muscles of the pelvis a little bit more. Hands come behind the head, interlace the fingers. We'll inhale here, feet are still walked in, getting ready for some core work. Exhale and lift. So draw the area around the belly button down into the low back and lift your shoulder blades off of the mat. And reach your right arm up towards the ceiling and just spread those fingers. So really reach that right arm, right shoulder blade spreads. Take the right hand back, inhale and lower. Exhale and lift, belly draws down, everything gathers together, left arm reaches up. Spread those fingers and really feel your left shoulder blade getting a little spread away from the center of the spine. Left hand comes back behind the head, inhale and lower. Going back to the right arm, we're gonna add one thing on, exhale and lift. So area of the belly button draws into the low back, feet are down, right arm reaches up, make a fist with the right hand, then bring your right elbow down by your side. Feel your shoulder blade plug onto your back ribs, and it might help you lift a little bit higher and pull in a little bit deeper. Strong, deep feeling here. Right hand comes back behind the head, and inhale and lower. Exhale and lift, the left arm will reach up. Make a fist with the left hand, pull that left elbow down by your side. It's right next to those ribs. So the left elbow is pushing into the ground. You're feeling that shoulder blade plug onto the back ribs. Left arm reaches up, left hand comes back, inhale, lower. Exhale and lift, everything gathers together. The right arm reaches up, make a fist, plug that right elbow down to the ground, plug your shoulder blade onto the back ribs, and then kick your left leg forward. Feel your right foot on the ground, spread the left toes, pull with your right foot and let it engage you even more. Right shoulder blades on the back ribs, left foot comes down, right hand comes back, inhale and lower. Exhale and lift. One more here. Left arm reaches up. Make a fist with the left hand. Left elbow comes down. Press it down and then reach that right foot forward. So left foot's still on the ground. It's plugging into the floor. Almost feel like you could pull your left foot back towards your hips. Left elbow's pressing the ground. Right foot comes down. Left hand comes back. Inhale and lower. Come around onto hands and knees. We'll get into our quadruped. So coming into your quadruped will be how we begin to set up this positioning of the shoulders. Now we just took all this time to reset our pelvis, get a little bit more neutral from our positions it found in our seated lives, and we just reset our core, activating it. So let's get into our shoulders. Take the hands underneath your shoulders. Your knees can be either be under the hips or even a little bit closer than that. That'll really help you keep that pelvis steady and still. So the wrists are kind of lined up with the front edges of the mat here. You want to take your hands down into the ground. So really grip your fingertips down into the floor. You want to feel right where those fingers meet the palms. All four of those knuckles are plugging into the floor here. Your wrists won't move. So I repeat, your hands won't actually move, but feel like your right hand could dial out to the right. You're gonna feel your right shoulder blade hugging onto those back ribs, and you're gonna feel your arm bones centered here in that shoulder socket. Your left hand, look at it. Feel like you could dial your left hand out to the left. Again, feel that left shoulder head centered there, and then continuing to dial the hands out without actually moving them. Make sure the neck isn't drooping down, but we still have that lifted feeling in the front body, and the core is lifting into the back body. We're not rounding it, but we're holding that front body in steady and letting the back lengthen. Push the hands outward. So again, they don't actually move, but it's this feeling like your hands are trying to push towards the outer edges of the mat. Let this start to fire up serratus and some of this good stuff around the side ribs. And now feel like you could draw your hands back towards your knees. Again, they won't really move, but what you're doing with that drawback sensation is you're setting the scapula back on the ribs. Step your left foot back, step your right foot back. You're in a plank. We're gonna lower down onto our knees. Make sure your knees are behind your hips here. Oftentimes, people will still have those knees underneath those hips. So it's gonna make it very difficult to lower with balance. So the knees are behind from that plank position. Tailbone's rooted, toes are on the ground. Notice if your legs are lifted. So push your toes on the ground. You almost wanna like press those toes on the ground and feel like the front body, the pubic bone is zipping up towards the sternum. Again, look at the hands. Feel like you're dialing the hands out. Feel like you're pressing them out and pulling them back. Shoulders are directly over the palms. We're gonna bend our elbows 1 inch, push into them and straighten. Don't let the head of the arm bone dip forward at all. So you're holding those shoulder blades steady on the back ribs. You're bending the elbows 1 inch, pushing the hands and straighten. Keep that little press out of the hands feeling. Bend the elbows, push the hands and straighten. One time here, lower halfway. Squeeze your glutes just a little bit here. Keep that support around the pelvis. You come halfway. Don't let your shoulder heads drop. They're still in line with the elbows. Come all the way down. Hips and ribs hit the ground at the same time. Keep pressing those hands into the ground. You can untuck the toes. So try not to lift the chin. Keep the spine long here. Grab the floor with your fingertips. Again, your hands won't move, but feel like you could dial your left hand out to the left, your right hand out to the right. Let that lift the head of the arm bones up here and center them. Now pull back your hands, lift the belly and inhale for cobra. It's a long lengthening of the spine from the tailbone rooting down to the heels and pulling with the hands, getting the shoulders involved too. Knees will stay down. Keep your head of the arm bones lifted, push into your hands and come up into a kneeling plank. So you get a reverse push-up, lower, all the way down. Head of the arm bones stay lifted. Keep that core on. Feel that zipping up at the front of the pubic bone towards the sternum. Dial the hands out. Inhale, pull back in your cobra, root the tailbone. Your belly is lifting into the low back. The neck is long. Knees stay down. Keep the dialing out, feeling in the hands, pushing the hands, straighten the elbows. One more time. Lower all the way to the ground. Head of the arm bones stay lifted. Don't move the hands, but feel like you could dial the left hand out to the left, right hand out to the right. Come all the way down. Arm bones stay up. So notice if they're falling down to the floor, feel that dialing out feeling here on your belly in the hands. Left hand dials out left, right hand dials out right. Pull back and lift. Root your tailbone. Knees stay tucked. Pressing the hands. Lift. Plank. Knees down. Walk the knees in. Come up onto those knees. Let's roll our arms back one at a time. So this is hard work, no matter how long you've been working with it. We all have these little imbalances that come into our lives. So we're just rolling our shoulders back one at a time. It could be a very small movement. It could be a bigger movement. You just work with what's feeling open. But we're going slow here and we're being patient with it. Starting off with those knees, letting everything stabilize, feeling the toes press into the ground. Again, we're gonna feel in that plank, this sensation, like the very front of our hips, that pubic bone is drawing up towards the sternum. We want to keep the spine long and balanced, just like we have it here, standing on our knees, but just changing that orientation of the body, bring a little bit more support. And again, we're going to keep the head of this arm bone centered. So here it is centered, rolling, and getting a little bit of motion and action. Come back down onto your hands, quadruped. I'm going to add on just a little bit here. So hands are on the ground, press into that left hand, press in that right hand. Step the left leg back, step the right leg back, lower the knees down. Feel like you could dial the right hand out to the right, the left hand out to the left. Your glutes are working, not like 100%, but there's a solid 50, 60% going there. Press your toes in the ground. Feel like you're zipping the front of the pubic bone up and into your chest. And then use that press and dialing out of the hands to feel that lengthening of the spine. This time we're gonna try about halfway. Remember, keep the head of the arm bones lifted. So as you bend your elbows, it could just be an inch, or you could try to come about halfway. Shoulders are in line with the elbows, and then you press back and straighten. Lowering, keeping a little engagement around the belly button and the glutes. Lowering about halfway, and then press and straighten. One more time, come about halfway down. It could be less than that. Press and straighten. One time here, lower all the way down. Chaturanga to the ground. Head of the arm bones stay lifted. So when you're on your belly, still feel like you could dial the right hand out to the right, the left hand out to the left. We want, remember, this glenohumeral joint, protecting that soft stuff, engaging the muscles of the shoulders, creating balance around the neck. Inhale, lift the belly, root the tailbone. Cobra. Knees are down. Press into the hands, reverse push-up. Keep the head of the arm bones lifted. So when you set that joint in place, you can get it to act. Lower, all the way to the ground. Head of the arm bones stay lifted. Pull back the hands, inhale in cobra. Press in the hands and lift on the knees. Plank, knees down, reverse push-up. One more time, lower, reverse cobra, reverse cobra. And pull with the hands, feel that dialing out, reverse push-up. Knees are down, press, straighten the elbows, and then walk those knees in again. We'll again bring yourself back. You can sit down on the heels or stand up on the knees, whatever's more comfortable. A few shoulder rolls here, a little bit shorter this time. We'll get one little bonus wrist stretch. And then option here, feel free to keep working on the knees, but I'll show you the chaturanga lowering without the knees and some of the things that we're still trying to hold steady. So we'll stretch the wrist though. Come into your quadruped, I'm just facing towards you to show this new position of the hands. Your tops of the hands are gonna be on the ground, fingers face in towards each other. So bring the tops of the hands on the ground in your quadruped here. Bend your elbows very much on purpose. Push in the hands, spread the shoulder blades, and then pull those hands apart. So you're pushing them down, but at the same time, you're bending the elbows and spreading the shoulder blades and letting this all open up. So we don't want to feel this protraction in our plank or our lowering. We want to set the scapula on the back ribs, but right here, we're allowing them to protract and spread and just breathe some space into it. And then you can release those wrists again. Feel free to circle them a couple of times. When we're working on the wrists, we're going to support them. We're going to get the synovial fluid going. We're going to stabilize them. So once again, come into your quadruped. This time we'll lead back with our right leg. And so we'll do one plank, lowering all the way down into a cobra. And we'll do a special cobra down there. And then we'll do one time with up dog. We'll have another class on up dog later. So don't worry too much about the mechanics of that up dog. And if you're not feeling ready for that, again, feel free just to skip it. But starting off in your quadruped, hands are under the shoulders, knees are under the hips. Look at the left hand. Feel like you could dial the left hand out to the left. Feel like you could dial the right hand out to the right. You'll step your right leg back, step your left leg back. So you're holding steady in this plank. Still feel that dialing out sensation. Feel like you could push your hands towards the outer edges of the mat. So you're pushing towards the pinky edge side of the hands, but you don't let your knuckles lift. Keep grabbing with the fingertips and feel like you could draw your hands a little bit back towards your toes here. Glutes are on, lower all the way to the ground. Keep the head of the arm bones lifted. So don't shift forward and drop your arm bones. Keep them lifted, stay controlled. Hips and ribs hit the ground at the same time. You can untuck the toes, root the tailbone, inhale. So the head of the arm bones stay in that same position as you lift for cobra. Lower down, release your forehead. Take your fingertips wide, in line with the shoulders, point your elbows up. The palms are up, we're tenting the fingertips. Pull your fingers back, inhale. Cobra, forehead can stay down, or you might even lift so much that the chest comes up, but really squeeze those shoulder blades together, root your tailbone and lift the belly. Just a wider cobra, really getting those shoulders. So we've been working, and bring it on down. Hands come back under the shoulders. Again, head of the arm bones stay lifted. So tuck your toes. Feel the left hand wants to dial out to the left. The right hand wants to dial out to the right. So once those arm bones are lifted, you'll press into them, rise up, plank, step the right knee down, step the left knee down. You can again sit back. This time we'll just shake those wrists out. So here's where it's applicable in our up dog. So when you're lowering down, we're keeping that head of the arm bones centered. Again, it protects all this soft stuff. So starting off in your quad, got a little ahead of myself, step that right leg back, step that left leg back. Left hand's gonna dial to the left, but it won't. Right hand feels like it'll dial to the right, but it won't. Push out into that pinky edge side, but the knuckles stay glued down. Feel like you can pull the hands back to your toes, glutes are on. Bend the elbows, either lower just an inch or as low as halfway. So you're in that low plank position, but you're still holding the core steady. Everything's strong. 1 foot at a time. Try not to roll over on both. 1 foot at a time. Pull the hands forward. So nothing's changed in that glenohumeral joint. You still have the head of the arm bone centered. Shoulder blades are drawing down. You're strong and steady here. And from there, you would hoist the pelvis up, untuck the toes one at a time. Come to that down dog. Knees lower down. So I hope that that helps to clear up just ways that you can make your lowering down in your yoga practice sustainable by protecting the glenohumeral joint, by using the strength that you have deep inside of you and certainly around that shoulder to support yourself and to support your practice so that can serve you for years to come. Again, if you have any questions about your own personal chaturanga or things that you might be feeling in your shoulder, feel free to either message me, plunketwc@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer emails or leave a comment below. But the light in me honors the light that shines in each and every one of you. And I thank you all for taking the time to do this video, to acknowledge that light inside yourselves. And I bow to that light that is inside of you and truly does connect us all together.